My name is Mark Johnson. I am the chair of the Academy's Foreign Language Film Selection Committee. In this very theater, on October 31st of last year, not that long ago, we saw the first two films of a total of 83 that were submitted this year. If I remember correctly, we saw Ida and White God from Hungary. Then on December 15th, we saw our last film, which is a film called Glow in the Firefly from Bangladesh. 83 movies is not only a record in this Oscar category, but it's also a hell of a lot of movies. It's a hell of a lot of movies to see in a 2-month period. And yet this committee approached this assignment with so much anticipation, so much enthusiasm, that never once did it seem like a job or some sort of Sisyphean task. I'm very proud to be the chair of this committee and proud of the work that we have done to this point in finalizing our 5 nominees, which are the focus of this morning. With honor, I would really like those members of the Foreign Language Selection Committee to stand and be appreciated by all of us. In case you're wondering, this is just a small percentage of those people who participated. Before I introduce the directors of our films, I would love for you to see some clips of our 5 nominated films. For those of you who haven't seen them or haven't seen all of them, this will only whet your appetite. And for those of you who have, it'll remind you of the great delights and joys that these films gave us.
Pani Wanda Gruz? Jestem pani siostrzenicą.
Wiem, kim jest. Chodź. Jesteś głodna?
Dziękuję.
Siadaj. Co ci o mnie powiedziały?
Że jest pani moją ciotką.
Tylko tyle? Nie powiedziały ci, co robię, kim jestem?
Nie. Dlaczego nie przyjechała pani po mnie do sierocińca?
Nie mogłam, nie chciałam. Nie byłoby ci ze mną dobrze.
To ja już lecę. Szczęść Boże.
Szczęść Boże.
Więc jesteś żydowską zakonnicą.
Kim?
Jesteś Żydówką. Nie powiedziały ci przez tyle lat. Nazywasz się Ida Lebenstein. Jesteś córką Chaima Lebensteina i Róży Herz. Urodziłaś się w Piaskach, koło Łomży. Poczekaj. To jest Róża, a to jesteś ty. No dobra, odbyłyśmy rodzinne spotkania. Muszę się ubrać, jestem spóźniona.
Ладно, договорились. Забирай. Только не тяни, хорошо? Давай. Завтра он лодку заберет. Отдаю все за бесценок. Если этот урод здесь дворец построит, я сожгу его нахер. Эй, Гулёна! А чё ты мобилу не взял? Ром!
Ром. Ром, послушай.
Чего тебе? Ты все испортила, это все из-за тебя!
Ром,
Я тебя ненавижу!
чего у вас тут, Ром?
Я не хочу с вами больше жить, вы мне надоели, понятно?
Сынок, успокойся.
Подойди ко мне!
Ты что? Ты что? Что ты? Что ты?
Пап, погоди ее! Уходи!
Все будет хорошо. Все будет хорошо.
поддерживалась военно-воздушными и военно-морскими силами. Грузинская сторона, по подсчетам эксперта Центра кавказских исследований, получила со складов бывшего ЗАК-ВО около 240 танков, множество бронетанков.
Margus! 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 noh, ega sa pihta ei saanud?
Ei saanud. Mis siin juhtus? Mina ei tea. See sõitis ees. Aga see pani tal järele. Andis tuld. See pani nad aeda sisse. Kurat, need on kõik taratuksis. Mina olin puu otsas. Või seal peidus. Ja siis ma nägin, kuidas lasti millegagi. Vist minamjotiga. Kurat, siin võib lolliks minna. Mis see oli, jah?
Hea küll. Rahune maha. Ta on haavatud. Mine vaata, mis seal bussis on. Ja ole ettevaatlik. Tiho, 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 tiho.
Il est interdit. Allô.
Salam. Eh, what you mean?
Allah,
I'm doing it.
Il est interdit de s'afficher, s'asseoir devant les maisons et à faire du n'importe quoi, à passer le temps dans les rues.
Naïf. Allez, mon bébé. Viens. Viens, mon tout petit. Tout mon mignon. Allez. Allez. Mon petit go naïf, ça va? Allez, mon petit go. Tout mignon, tout doux. Pito, Pito. C'est la Guinée.
L'adultère pendant le mois de Ramadan est le pire. Et la peine sera la lapidation jusqu'à la mort.
أنت لاعب الكرة. هل تعرف أن الكرة محرمة؟
Est-ce que vous savez que le football est interdit?
Oui. إذن بما أنك تعرف أن الكرة محرمة واعترفت بذلك فسنعزلك ب20 جلدة.
Comme vous avez reconnu que le football est interdit, votre correction sera 20 coups de fouet.
Mi primer novio era músico clásico. En realidad estudiaba música clásica.
¿Cómo se llama?
No, no es conocido. Nada, presentó unos trabajos cuando estábamos juntos en aquella época, pero que yo sepa nunca publicó. O editó, no. ¿Cómo se dice bien?
Vos elegí el término que quieras y yo lo instalo en la comunidad artística.
Pasternak. Gabriel Pasternak.
Pasternak. De haberlo sabido te decía que era sepulturero y no crítico. Presentó su tesis en el concurso del conservatorio cuando yo era presidente del jurado. Lo defenestré.
Sí, yo estaba con él en ese momento. Fue tremendo lo que le hicieron. Estuvo una semana en cama después de leer la reseña.
Y a veces es así. Tengo que dañar la autoestima de un pobre infeliz para proteger los oídos de toda una población. Eventualmente puedo equivocarme, pero en este caso esto era un engendro impresentable. ¿Lo seguís viendo?
No terminamos muy bien, que digamos. Igual le tengo cariño, ¿eh? No era una mala persona.
Mala no sé, pero para presentar algo así en un concurso, algún problema tenés que tener. Gabriel Pasternak, ¿cómo olvidarlo? Nos reímos durante meses.
Discúlpenme que los interrumpa, pero estaba escuchando la conversación. No puedo creer tanta casualidad. Yo fui profesora de Gabriel Pasternak en la escuela número 7 del Palomar. Tuve la difícil tarea de comunicarle que repetía el año. Doy fe de que ese chico tenía problemas. En 30 años de docencia nunca vi nada igual. Alaridos pegaba. Lloraba como una criatura recién nacida.
¿Profesora Leguizamón?
Sí.
Soy Ignacio Fontana, ¿se acuerda?
Ignacio Fontana. Pero esto es increíble. Acá hay una conexión cósmica. Justamente, Pasternak no era compañero tuyo.
Sí. ¿Ustedes son amigos?
Sí, íntimos.
Pobre flaco, ¿cómo le dábamos?
Esto es más que increíble. Yo fui gerente de Casa Tía, donde este enfermito del que ustedes hablan trabajó un tiempo. Como siempre tenía algún problema con los clientes, se lo tuvo que echar. Cuando le digo...
Perdón, ¿alguien más conoce a Gabriel Pasternak aquí?
¿Por?
¿Por qué están en este avión? ¿Ustedes sacaron los pasajes?
No. Trabajo en una inmobiliaria y me lo mandaron para que fuera a ver unos campos que están en oferta.
A mí me citaron a una reunión con el ministro de Turismo. Lo sacaron ellos.
Yo me lo gané en un sorteo. No se podía cambiar la fecha. O viajaba hoy o nada.
Gabriel Pasternak es el comisario de a bordo de este vuelo. Hicimos el training juntos. Éramos amigos. Después me invitó a salir y cuando le dije que no, se empezó a poner... No importa eso ahora. Apenas despegamos fue a llevar cafés a la cabina. La puerta está cerrada con llave. Los pilotos no contestan. Estoy desesperada. No sé qué hacer.
Yo lo engañé con su único amigo. Con él.
Now that I think about it, I think I knew Gabriel Pasternak too. Couldn't fly that day for some reason. The failure of our institutions, the failure of our government, the failure of what we put our trust in are the shared themes of all 5 of our nominated films. With Leviathan, the modern-day Russian government is the insurmountable wall that our ordinary Job cannot scale. Anita, a young novitiate, is tested by her faith, by her country, and by her own sense of history. Timbuktu, in both a comical and jarringly violent takeover its town by Muslim extremists, shows betrayed citizens rendered to a state of stasis by an authority that denies them the most basic of human emotions. With Tangerines, 2 Estonian tangerine growers are trapped by the polemics of 2 governments, 2 histories of people that refuse to recognize the obvious. And with Argentina's Wild Tales, we have 6 stories of societal and governmental prohibitions that absurdly deny the most basic of human impulses. It's remarkable how thematically these 5 movies are connected. Their themes, quite frankly, are not the triumph of the human spirit over the collective voice, but rather the destruction of the individual who dares to go up against a societal or governmental behemoth. With maybe the exception of the final short story from Wild Tales, all of these films end, if not tragically, at least with the defeat of its central character. And then again, I might argue that the couple left coupling on top of the wedding cake in the final story is in for a doomed future. The sense that we are born into a world that does not have our best intentions in mind is manifest in all of these movies. All 5 posit worlds in which the spirit of the individual is sound, it's just not strong enough to overcome. There is no triumph in these movies, there is only futility. Why then are we celebrating them? Clearly, it's not just because the filmmaking in all 5 films is nearly impeccable, and it is. It's because we recognize the worlds, no matter how exotic they are, the characters and their struggles. All of these movies introduce characters who are true and natural and immediately recognizable to all of us sitting in this theater. If they are not we, then they are better than we. It is with anguish and sometimes laughter and identification that we value these movies. As beautifully rendered, and some of these movies are absolutely pure poetry, it's the characters and the writing and the acting behind these characters that are indelible. I would venture to say there's not a single false note in any of these protagonists of these movies. The fact that we are moved to the degree that we are by a young Polish Jewish girl entering a convent, a Mauritanian cowherder, a doomed Russian car mechanic, an aging Estonian citrus farmer, and a number of Argentines just trying to get through the day bears testament to the achievement of all 5 of these films and thereby their writers and directors. All right, enough about that. Let me introduce our directors. Our first director, Pawlikowski, is a director of Ida. Pawel, could you please stand up? I think you're right there. Are any of your creative team, anybody here, producers, actors?
Yes,
hangers on?
There's a lot of hangers on. The longer the film goes on, the more, the bigger the crew. No, I have my producers, Ewa Puszczyńska and Piotr Dzięcioł, who are sitting.
Would you please stand up?
Oh, they're waving. My co-writer, Rebecca Lenkiewicz, who is actually English, but has a good Polish name. And I think Christian is there. Christian, associate producer from Denmark.
Fantastic. All right, our next director is the director of Leviathan, Andrey. Oh, I'm going to have trouble with this, I know it. Zvyagintsev. Zvyagintsev. Thank you. You should have done it.
Andrey, willkommen.
We don't actually have 2 directors, we have a translator. And our third director is the director of Tangerines, and that is Zaza Urushadze. Also with a translator. Now, our fourth director, the director of Timbuktu, Abderrahmane Sissako, is not with us today. He is arriving this afternoon. He couldn't have been more passionate about wanting to come and what it meant to him. As it turns out, he was nominated for 8 Césars, the French equivalent of the Oscar, and the ceremonies were last night. He felt a real obligation to be there, given how important the film is in France, given the discussion right now about extremism. It's a film that's been embraced by the French, not just because it's a huge box office, but it's a real polemic in terms of the French media and the French people. I'm proud to point out that he won 7 Césars last night. Including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Cinematography. All right, and a director who is here, my new best friend, Damián Szifron, who is the director of Wild Tales. I forgot to ask you, is any of your team here? Any actors, any filmmakers, producers?
Да, здесь продюсер Александр Роднянский.
Our producer, Alexander Rodnyansky.
What's that?
That's it.
И моя семья отдыхает
And
в
my
отеле.
family.
Маленький
They're
мальчик.
with here
Петя
with
зовут
with our
сына.
little boy Peter.
Okay, good. Thank you.
My Estonian producer Ivo Felt is there. Estonian DOP Rein Kotov. And Georgian actor Misha Mesri.
Damián, I see you are
Hi.
official still photographer for.
Yeah. We have a lot of people from Argentina. I'm going to name them all from Argentina and Spain as well, because we have producers from Argentina and Spain. Pedro
And
Agustín
please
Almodóvar
stand up so
from
we
El
can,
Deseo.
we can
Yes,
acknowledge.
it's my wife, Maria, who's an actress in the film as well. You just saw her in the airplane.
Yeah.
Then we have
Wait a
Bárbara Peiró.
Wait a minute. What,
Yes, sure.
What kind of director puts his wife in a plane, a doomed airplane? You knew it wasn't going to make it.
But she's in the film, so I can still be married to her. No, she's a wonderful actress, wonderful person as well. And is Bárbara Peiró there from El Deseo, and Esther García from El Deseo as well. The production company of Pedro and Agustín Almodóvar. And I'm seeing Matías Mosteirín with his wife, Paula, Matías, producer of Wild Tales. And then we have people from the Argentinian Academy. Yes, absolutely. I'm sorry, I didn't know how many. And a journalist, a very close journalist. Yeah, Marcelo Stiletano. Yeah, they're present.
I might point out that the president, I believe still of the Academy, is Juan Jose Campanella.
Absolutely.
Who won this Oscar 5 years ago for The Secret in Their Eyes.
Yes, he is.
All right, what I'd like to start off with is questions. Look, you're all seasoned filmmakers. There's not a single first-timer here. How did you arrive at making your movie? How did you decide to get it made? And your film is formally quite radical in the sense that you've gone backwards, the old Academy format in black and white. How did it come to be, and how did you make the decisions of how you were going to present it?
It was, but these decisions were largely just what to avoid doing. You know, what doesn't. It's something to do with the age and not wanting to move around too much on the shoot, on the set. You know, not moving the lights.
There are no moving shots in the movie. I saw there's one of the camera in the streetcar, but not a lot of dolly shots.
No. And actually, what you saw in the kitchen, that was our first day of filming, where we did have coverage of sorts, you know, and there's a wide shot and there's a close-up, whereas most of the film we tried to do from one angle. And so it was like, it felt right for the story, for the film. I wanted the film to raise it to a slightly kind of abstract, fairy tale, allegorical, dreamlike level, you know, and doing it in black and white and photographically. Just making sure each shot was really concentrated and had a kind of emotional punch, not because of what it does with the actor, but just in itself is emotional, you know, the way that it's framed. I wanted that to be as important as the acting and as the story, and just, you know, it's true that I'm sort of slightly I like to reinvent the wheel with each film, you know, like with each film I want to stress what do I do to avoid what I've already done and what I'm sort of bored with in cinema, you know. So the idea of moving the camera just felt really redundant, and the idea of having music and the idea of having coverage and so on and so on. And why it's black and white, because I suppose that time is also, I remember it in black and white, and you know, and films which I watched when I was, you know, young in the 60s were all black and white and 4:3. So there were many reasons, and you know, I don't think I was very conscious of making these decisions. You know, you kind of make them gradually, and you don't quite know where you've made it. You know.
Was it more difficult to finance in black and white? I know in this country, in the studio, for instance, Alexander Payne, when he did Nebraska, Paramount would have given him double his budget had he shot it in color, but he insisted on black and white. Was it hard to get it financed, a black and white film?
It was. It's not a big budget, but I think one of our investors dropped out when he dropped off his chair and dropped out when he heard it's in black and white. But it was, it wasn't a big budget, and in the end, I think most people realize that that's the best way to do it. So yeah, it was so cheap,
Perfect. Andrey, how did you? What was the impulse? And I've read some things that there was actually an American somewhere in the Midwest who was denied, had some zoning problems with the local government, and ended up bulldozing a couple of buildings and killing himself. And that was an idea that sparked you into Leviathan. But where does the film actually come from in your body of work?
Российская реальность подсказала фактуру, что ли, политическая, социальная, духовная среда, окружающая создателей фильма. В общем, скажем так, явилась такой благодатной почвой, на которую легло вот это семя, имя которому Марвин Джон Химейер. Вот. Скажем так, яблоко, которое упало на голову Ньютону, вот яблоком была история бульдозер и Химейера, который сел на бульдозер и снес эти несколько административных зданий. А уже, что называется, идея, которую подтолкнула эта реальная история, родилась, что называется, в наших пределах. Так что это, в общем, можно сказать, российское кино с американским происхождением.
You better be very good.
I try my best. Basically, the current political, societal, religious situation in contemporary Russia has proven to be this fertile ground which sort of help us evolve the story. And the proverbial Newtonian apple, which being the story of Marvin John Himeyr, and the Skilldozer was what made the impact to create the story. All of this combined basically what made Leviathan the way it was made. So it was the current contemporary situation in Russia and the story of Marvin John Himeyr.
And was it in... Not bad. Of course, we have no idea if he's answering correctly. Was it difficult to get the film financed?
Да нет, не было трудностей с финансированием, потому что мы запустились еще, скажем так, за год до того события, когда был объявлен питчинг на финансирование, финансовую помощь от государства, и поэтому, в общем, мы были готовы снимать картину. И накануне буквально первого съемочного дня, за неделю до того, Министерство культуры приняло решение о том, что они поддержат картину.
Luckily, no. We were lucky enough to have received financing almost a year before the actual shooting start. And basically a week from the first day of shooting, we have been greenlit by the Ministry of Culture of Russia. So no, we've been lucky to never have any problems with financing.
Fantastic. Zaza, what about your film? Where does it come from? By the way, most of them speak really good English. They're just falling back on the.
It's better.
Yeah.
Sorry. პირველი იდეა, პრინციპში იდეა წამოვიდა რამაზე გადაგვეღო ესტონეთიდან.
Actually, the idea was born in Estonia.
როგორც იცით, ეს არის ესტონურ-ქართული კოპროდუქცია.
As you are aware, this is an Estonian-Georgian co-production.
და პირველი იმპულსი იყო ესტონეთიდან, როდესაც შემომთავაზეს, რომ გადაგვეღო ფილმი ამაზე, რაც ეხება მის შესახებ ესტონური სოფლების საქართველოში, კერძოდ აფხაზეთში.
So the impulse came from Estonia, as I already mentioned, and the whole idea was to make a movie about Estonian villages in Georgia.
with
the background of Abkhazian war.
პრინციპში ეს იყო საინტერესო ჩემთვის იმითაც, რომ ეს ომი, რომელიც 90-იან წლების დასაწყისში მოხდა ჩვენთან, სეპარატისტებს და საქართველოს მხარეს, ოფიციალურ მხარეს შორის, რომელსაც სამწუხაროდ უჭერდა მხარს ჩვენი მეზობელი. ძალიან ცუდი ეს დამტკივნეული თემა იყო, რომ ჩვენ დავკარგეთ ჩვენი ძალიან საყვარელი ტერიტორია და მე დავკარგეთ ძალიან ბევრი მეგობარი ამ ომში, ახალგაზრდები ძალიან ნიჭიერები და
Well, when I was offered about making this, when my Estonian friends actually offered me to make a movie about Estonians living in Abkhazia, this was very interesting for me because the war, this Abkhazian war, which erupted in early 90s in Georgia between Abkhazian separatists and Georgians, and unfortunately it was Abkhazian side was supported by our neighbor.
Sorry, Andrey.
It was very, very painful personally for me because I lost a lot of close friends in this war. So definitely I decided that I was going to do it.
And was it difficult to get financed?
ჩვენ სახელმწიფოდან მოვიპოვეთ ესტონეთის ფონდებიდან მოვიპოვეთ დაფინანსება აგრეთვე საქართველოსდან და აგრეთვე ცნობილი ძალიან ევროპული ფონდიდან ევრიმაშიდან. არ იყო ძალიან რთული პრინციპში.
I can't say it was really hard to find funding, but most of the funding came actually from the Estonian government, and there was some share from Georgian party, but as the majority of it actually came from a very famous European organization.
Cinema Fund Euromash.
Euromash.
I'd like to point out, I should have done it earlier, that Tangerines is the first Estonian film ever to be nominated for an Oscar. And although he's not here, Timbuktu is the first ever submission from Mauritania, and it got a nomination its very first time out. Damián, what about you? I see you have some very impressive producers, both in Argentina and El Deseo. You have the Almodovar brothers, and how did that come about? It seems like a very lucky sort of confluence of producing entities.
I was very lucky. There's a company in Argentina named Kramer and Sigman Films, owned by Hugo Sigman, who couldn't be here today. And he's a great producer and a friend, and he produced a previous film of mine in 2005 called On Probation. So, we were always talking about making a new one. And I've been very lucky because Pedro and Agustín Almodóvar went to see this film in Spain when it came out in 2006, and they loved it, and they just called. Yeah, we're Pedro and Agustín Almodóvar, and we just saw your film. It's amazing. We truly like it. So, I was astonished. And then Agustín came to Argentina. We went to dinner. We became friends in a way. We spoke about movies, and they wanted to know what was the next thing. But by that time, I thought I was going to write a science fiction film and that I was going to spend a year writing. But I spent 7 years writing a science fiction trilogy and a Western and also a romantic comedy and a lot of other projects for film and TV. And I had more ideas. So to stop them from becoming more feature films, because I had so many in development, I tried to compress them. And as a result, I got these powerful short stories. I didn't know what to do with them. But by the time I had 3 or 4, I could tell that they were all connected by the themes and by the energy, and that they belonged to the same universe, to the same, like different songs from the same album, from the same spectacle. And I said, there is a movie here. And so I gave it to Hugo Sigman and Matías Mostaín, who now is a very close friend and producer, but this is the first time we work together. And they loved it, and we sent it to Pedro and Agustin, and 2 days after, they were immediately on board as producers. So, yeah.
And there was, I say this because I know in the U.S. it's next to impossible to get an anthology film made. Was there no impulse to take one of the stories and maybe expand it into a full-length film? Or did they immediately embrace the idea of 6 separate stories around the central theme?
No, I have to say that the producers loved the film at a point that they told me, you should do this right now. This is what you have to do. But yes, when we tried to get, for example, an international seller, an international, like in Cannes, etc., that was very hard to get one. And I mean, the big companies that they thought, I mean, when they heard it is an anthology, they were very afraid of that. But finally we were chosen for Cannes in the main competition, and the film was sold out in a week to all the world by a very small company, and a very good one.
Fantastic. I had a very quick question. I was just curious. The order in which we see the stories, is that in the order in which you shot them? And is that also in the order that you originally planned to present them? Or did you discover the lineage sort of in the cutting room?
I didn't edit the film. I just shot everything in order, and that's it. No. No, I
was going to call him a liar.
I wrote the stories in this order. I didn't shoot them in this order, but I wrote them like this, and it's not that I wanted to keep the order. I just forget about the order, and I tried different ones. I thought about it, and finally I choose this one, and after releasing the film, somebody asked me this question, and I said, okay, I wrote all the stories in this exact order, and they are now in the film like that. Because I think that in a subconscious way, the energy was developing and going somewhere. I didn't know it back then, but now it makes sense for me. The first one is a prologue. It's very short. It's powerful. It sets up the mood and the tone for the rest of the film, and it can only go at the beginning. And you don't have the main character is in the cabin. You don't see him, so it's a good opener. And the last one, it has a huge climax. It presents major changes in the main characters. They truly go the full circle. So I mean, after that, the movie can't go on. It has to end there. And it's a different ending when you compare it to the other endings of the rest of the stories. So so it's good where it is. And well, it makes sense now for me, but I didn't know.
No, I think if you...
And it ends, I'm sorry, with the oldest problem in the world, the relationship between a man and a woman that originates life. And we're like a new Adam and Eve. The institution falls and true love rises, in a way. So
They in the course of that short story, do the complete circle of sort of courtship and just the entire life of a couple. They come right back around, and I suppose you can say we end with a kiss and make up.
I agree.
I have another question, which is really about sort of formally how you present the film, and we've already talked about your format, electing to go with the old. Is it a 1:3:3 or is it close to that old Academy format, which is you noticed it's almost like a box-like frame, and of course in black and white. But you've done something really, I find, formally quite shocking in its way, which is how the film is actually composed. And many of the shots, I'm not sure we saw it that much in this clip, almost the top third of the frame or the top half of the frame seemingly is empty, but it's not at all, and subconsciously it works brilliantly. How did you just arrive at? Did you do this with and in your case you had two cameramen? Did you? How did you find the sort of the formal aspect of the presentation of your film?
It was well, interestingly, what you saw just now was the first day's filming. You know, in the kitchen staircase. So we were still quite conservative. You know, and it wasn't until second, third day where I got, it was like 4:3, you know, it can be quite, it's kind of powerful in some ways, but it can be limiting and boring too. You know, it's very kind of square and some, so just for argument's sake, you know, I started, you know, asking the second DOP, because the first DOP dropped out after this day, and then came back in for a bit. But so this other guy who was very young and excitable, he said, "Well, you know, let's you know, tilt up and see what happens if there's much more headroom, and you know, because this is a bit boring. You know, this is a little bit inexpressive."
It was really by accident, not
accident. It was just looking. You know, because when you have a film where you don't have to do coverage, you know, you can really look for the frame and really, and not just because you pre-drew it, but because you've created a world with your production designers and just location, you know, looking for locations, designing, and then you can really focus on the most expressive, punchy, moving framing. So I had this young DP, Łukasz, who was just like excitable and with me, and we took all sorts of risks. He was his first job, so he had absolutely nothing to lose. You know, so he can't get sacked. You know.
By the way, I might point out that he's been nominated for a cinematography Oscar.
Yeah. And yeah. And we just kept pushing it further and further, and it suddenly started at a kind of shorthand with my DPs. Usually, I said, "This means something," you know, and I don't know what it means, but this means something. Like, and it felt like it meant something, and slowly it felt right. It felt right, you know, that headspace. You know, critics have been since writing about the absence of God or the presence of God or the crushing of history or whatever. You know, that's all this stuff about above the heads. But the fact is, at the beginning was, what do we do to make it a bit more interesting? You know, that was
well, it makes me seem stupid. I read all sorts of things into it.
Well, rightly so.
Well, and then the rest of you were working in a widescreen format, obviously full color and widescreen. I'm curious why you chose that aspect ratio. You know, it's interesting about widescreen. I think John Ford is famous for saying that he hated widescreen. He said it's only good for the close-up of a snake, because of the like that. But obviously, all of you guys use it incredibly to full effect. What was your decision making and how you were going to present the film, Andrey?
2:35. Аноморфот. Мы очутились на Кольском полуострове, ровно там, где в результате снимали фильм. Это самый берег Северного Ледовитого океана, Баренцево море. Это абсолютно пустынное пространство тундры. Деревьев там просто нет как вида. Только у домов, вот в населенных пунктах, они высаживают самое морозостойкое дерево – рябину. И больше растительности нет никакой, только ягели и вот эти бескрайние пространства. Поэтому, чтобы взять их, что называется, все их великолепие, в общем, одна из причин, скажем так, этого выбора этого формата.
One of the reasons was the location itself. As you could see, this is taking place at the Kola Peninsula, the very shore of the Barents Sea, and the land is pretty much barren. You cannot see any trees going on there. Basically, just moss. The only tree that people would have would be growing by their houses, where it would be protected from the wind, like ash tree, for example. So the decision to use anamorph format was dictated by the location, mostly, to try and encompass the vastness of the space, the barren land, which is very important to the narrative as well.
Ну и потом это создает какой-то масштаб самой истории, масштаб, сопоставимый с тем саундтреком, который звучит у нас, музыкой Филиппа Гласса, мне кажется, так.
We also thought it would be very proper to use the fantastic music by Philip Glass to try and encompass everything we wanted to achieve, meaning the grander scale of the story, because it's both biblical and contemporary.
Ну и потом это просто красиво.
And on the other hand, it's simply beautiful.
No, it's true, and the film ends and begins. You're being told a bold tale, and you're told both by the landscape that you're depicting, and that Philip Glass music that you play, Andrey, at full volume. And we understand we're about to to see a consequential story, not something that's just thrown together. It's a great presentation, and both in terms of soundtrack and in terms of picture.
Yes.
Thank you. Zaza, what about you? Did you have any questions about how you were going to shoot it and what format? And just quite frankly, do you storyboard your film beforehand?
საერთოდ მე მგონია რომ ეს ფორმატი ავერჩიეთ იმიტომ რომ მე ხომ მესმის აბსოლუტურად თქოთ პაველმა რატომ აირჩია ეს იდეას რეჟისორმა, ნუ იქ იყო რაღაცას განსაკუთრებული ხედვა და ჩვენ მაინც დავტოვეთ ანუ ის რაც არის ახლა უფრო გავრცელებული ეს 2.35-ზე ფორმატი, იმიტომ რომ ისედაც ვიღებდით ერთ სივრცეში ძალიან ბევრი იყო ინტერიერი და კიდე ამით შეზღუდვა ახლა იმითი რომ მიდოდათ ფართო ყოფილიყო фორმატი რა, იმიტომ რომ არ შეზღუდულიყო კიდევ რა, მიხვდი ეს სივრცე.
I was listening to my colleague from Argentina, and from Poland, and I understand why he chose this different format, but I chose to use the well accepted old format to 35 because I knew that while shooting it will be very compact, and I didn't want to actually compress it more by choosing another format. And because of the location, because of the environment, what we were shooting. Yeah, I didn't want to compress the environment because most movie is shot in the environment, outdoors.
მე ამასთან დაკავშირებით გამახსენდა ერთი რამე, აი ამ ფორმატებთან დაკავშირებით ძალიან კაი შეკითხვა, იმიტომ რომ გამახსენდა კანადური მამი, რომელიც სამწუხაროდ არ მოხვდა ახლა, მაგრამ ნახე ძალიან მომეწონა ეს ფილმი.
It was a great question actually that you asked about the format, which reminded me of this Canadian movie, Mommy, which unfortunately did not get in the shortlist.
და ძალიან ცოტა შემშურდა რომ მან მიაგნო ესეთ რამეს ძალიან თამამია ეს და მიაგნო რომ გამომდინარე თქვათ აი გვირის მდგომარეობიდან ან სიტუაციიდან ის თქვათ ჯერთა ფორმატს აკეთებს ძალიან ვიწროს ანუ 3/4-ზე და კიდევ უფრო ვიწროს და შემდეგ თვითონ გმირი შუა ფილმში როდესაც რაღაცნაირად გაიხსნება და მისი მდგომარეობა სხვანაირი გახდება ის ხელით ასე ხსნის თითქოს ამ ფორმას და ხდება უკვე ფართო რა და ძალიან შემშურდა.
So when I actually watched this movie, now I kind of like felt envious because the format was very interesting. It was presented very in such a unique way that it is 3x4, but then in the middle of the movie, the hero itself actually opens this frame and it becomes the flat screen.
Yes, we saw Mommy here in this very theater, and it's shown very much in the aspect ratio of your film. Yes, it's like a box. It's a box, and I think twice in the course of the movie, the young boy has these flights of fantasy and imagination, and he just goes running wild, and all of a sudden you just notice that the frame has opened up completely just to express this exhilaration he's feeling, and then comes back together. It's really a fantastic use of the aspect ratio. Both of your films use the landscape to basically sort of justify, it's the wrong word, but to justify the widescreen aspect ratio. Damián, in your film, it's not so much the landscape, it's the faces, it's the intimacy of it, but you compose it in such a way that clearly I think of your film, and I only think of it as being able to be told in a very sort of wide panel.
Yeah. Wide Tales. I should have named it. Well, I think that first of all, I truly love when you're in a theater and the curtains open. I truly enjoy that moment. And next, we have two eyes, so we have a wide vision. In reality, I would say that we have a normal lens, but an angular lens in terms of what we can see. I'm here and I am seeing Zaza. I'm very scared of Zaza because I always say this because yes, and it's truly wide. So I think that the widescreen format is the is the one that reflects more the experience of being alive, and you kind of forget about the limits. You're not conscious of the limits. You're inside the film. And I enjoyed that, and this, of course, was a movie about characters. There are some open spaces, like the road rage episode, but I would say that, yeah, to go with that wide vision through all of these conflicts and climaxes was the best way to go for me.
Yeah, it makes total sense, and yet it's a very intimate film. It's in a strange way, it's almost a chamber piece, but six intimate stories. I wanted to ask a question. The next one's really about music and how you all use it, because all four of the films use music in radically different ways. You don't actually have a composer, is that right, on your film? So we're listening to Wanda's LP collection. We're listening to some pretty crummy radio music, and then the sort of the enticing male sort of carnal element comes. We were listening to Coltrane.
Yeah, well put. Absolutely. Carnal. Yes. No, in fact, there is a composer in the credits, and there was a very nice Danish composer, Christian Andersen, not Anderson, who composed 3 chords, which are somewhere there in the film. And, you should watch it again, just to spot these chords.
How much did you pay for that?
It doesn't matter, they're the key to the whole film. If you've missed them, then you've really missed the point. No, in fact... No, but it was pretty clear, making it, that it's a very quiet film, and that the music is the sounds, and the actions of the actors, the movement and the choreography, and that very few noises go a long way if that's where you headed. And then I had already, early on, this film is an excuse to put all my favorite bits of music, over my decades of my life, starting from this cheesy Polish pop, which I grew up with, like these very funny rockabilly songs. Then the Italian kitsch music, which was big in Poland in the 60s, Adriano Celentano, Marina Marini. So I've always wanted to use it somewhere. And then Coltrane was a big deal for me. I used to play jazz, and he's my god. Jupiter Symphony, Mozart, I was obsessed, just like Vanda at some point, and playing it over and over. So basically, I just used my favorite bits and pieces. The only bit of music that wasn't there to start with was the final music, which is a piece of Bach, a transcription by Busoni of Bach's chorale, and that music I put it in on the last day of the mixing. And is the mixer here? Is Klaus here? My Danish Klaus? Are you there? Oh, so he can tell you the drama. We had a piece of composed music which I didn't like for the final sequence, and it felt like kind of film music. It was really kind of heavy. And at the last moment, I kind of thought, I've got to come up with some better music. So I went into my laptop where I keep my favorite hits, and one of them was this Bach piece. And I just tried it out against the image, and it was brilliant, So then I just needed to ring my producer, Eva, to see whether we can ever clear this, because there was only one day left to make that decision. And she somehow, I don't know whether she, maybe we have never cleared it, by the way. Another story. And there was just one version by Alfred Brendel, which was perfect, but Eva performs miracles, so I'm sure she cleared it. And then it just felt right, and it was the only bit of music in the film that came not from the film itself, that was imposed from outside, which was kind of perfect for the film, because, that last shot is from a different perspective suddenly, from outside the film. So, yeah, so this is the story of the music.
Our sound branch is going to file an official complaint that he's in the last row. So
he should talk about how he suffered over the silent film. It's so difficult to mix a film when not much happens. I think Klaus went mad because usually you can just put stuff in, cover stuff up with movement, and you know when there's so little, every little noise of a spoon is a big drama, you know. So it's nightmare for mixers.
But it's only an 80-minute film, so it was done very quickly.
Yeah. That's why you should watch it 3 times.
Andrey, what came first, Philip Glass or the movie? In other words, did you shoot the movie to that piece of music, or did you discover it late?
Кстати, нет ли там Филиппа Гласса?
Is there Philip Glass in the audience?
I was going to say, you cleared those rights?
Я знаю о том, что картину посмотрел Филипп Гласс, и он очень доволен, насколько я знаю, очень доволен использованием его эхнатона в нашем фильме.
I just know that Philip Glass did see the movie, and he said he was very content with the usage of his music in the movie.
4 года назад мы сделали картину в 2011 году, фильм «Елена», где впервые я использовал музыку Филиппа Гласса. Это была 3-я симфония, 3-я часть 3-й симфонии.
4 years ago, we made our previous movie, Yelena, which came out in 2011, and this is the first time we used Philip Glass's music in the movie.
Я чувствовал, догадывался о том, что в этой картине Филипп Гласс будет на месте. То есть, скажем так, мы дотянем историю до его масштаба.
It was my gut feeling, if you will, while we were making the movie, that we felt that we will be able to live up to music of Philip Glass, that we would be able to keep the level as high as his music is, and that would be as powerful a media to convey our idea as it is.
Но окончательно понял это только когда был собран уже фильм полностью. То есть монтаж был готов, и она легла туда. Совершенно было ясно, что я пытался какие-то фрагменты из эхнатона положить в других где-то местах в картине, но фильм выталкивал ее оттуда, он был внутри неуместен. И было совершенно ясно, что вот та рама, которая образует вход в картину и выход из нее, это единственные места, где мог бы звучать Филипп Гласс.
After we finished editing the movie, we sort of realized that it was perfectly the best scenario would be to use the Philip Glass pieces both at the beginning and at the end of the movie, thus forming some sort of a frame for a movie.
Вся остальная музыка, которая изобилует, скажем так, на нашей территории, в России, это, в общем, та среда, звуковая, музыкальная, которую можно встретить в любом баре, в любом кафе и так далее. В общем, она, конечно, тоже отбиралась очень тщательно. И мне очень жаль, что все тонкости и нюансы наличия той или иной музыки в контексте фильма понятны только в России.
Other pieces of music that we use throughout the movie that you could hear are basically just the contemporary stuff that you would be able to hear anywhere in a bar, if you will. And unfortunately, it is only familiar and known by the Russian audience who are culturally aware of those pieces of music. But those, nevertheless, still created a certain atmosphere in the movie, if you will.
Некоторые вещи непереводимы.
Certain things can just not be translated.
Well, they're very effective. Whether or not we recognize them, they clearly fit perfectly into the film, so it's almost immaterial.
Унца.
Она
понятна, мне кажется, на любом языке.
That is universally understandable.
Но там есть изумительные слова.
But they do have amazing pieces of lyrics in those songs.
Great. Zaza, are you no longer threatening Damián?
No, he never did.
Oh, he's always scared of me, and I like it.
Since I've been doing this, we've never had a fist fight up here. Just so you know. So on a serious note, I was looking, and it looks to me like your film is mostly made up of Estonian and Georgian folk music. Is that right?
კარგად მოხდა ის, რომ აი ნამდვილი კოპროდუქცია, ალბათ ეს ვფიქრობ, იმიტომ რომ ჩვენმა კომპოზიტორმა, ძალიან ცნობილმა და კარგმა კომპოზიტორმა, ქართველმა აიღო ეს მოტივი ესტონური ფოლკლორიდან და დაუკრა ქართული ინსტრუმენტებით. და ეს რაღაცნაირი ისეთი კარგი მიქსი გამოვიდა.
I must admit that our movie is like truly Estonian-Georgian co-production because Georgian composer, very well-known composer, got this folk song, Estonian folk song, and actually played it with Georgian instruments.
და ეს იმდენად სპეციფიური ინსტრუმენტია, რომ რაღაც ამ ქართულ ჟღერადობამ რაღაც მოტივი მოაქვს, მიხდი იმ ინსტრუმენტი იმიტომ ვახსენე, იმიტომ სპეციფიურია ძალიან ეს ინსტრუმენტი ქართული პანდური რა.
This is a very specific instrument, what I'm just talking about. The Georgian name of it is panduri, which resembles guitar, but it's definitely not a guitar. And it's very specific in terms of it has Georgian intonation. So playing Estonian folk song on it really gave some very interesting character to it.
Damián, you used a very well-known composer who I think did arguably his best work ever. It has almost a spaghetti western kind of feel to it. So there's a sense of humor to it. There's also a sense of everything from expectation to dread. But as I say, there's a great sense of humor. And those of you who haven't seen it, there's a wonderful title sequence right after this plane incident with the cut together images of a lot of predatory animals, but it's the score is used beautifully. Was that what your intention was from the very beginning?
Yeah, Gustavo Santaolalla, he's a great composer. He's from Argentina, but he won 2 Academy Awards for Babel and Brokeback Mountain. But this is the first time that he created a score for an Argentinian film. And I think that the first decision that I took when I started pre-production was to send the script to Gustavo. I was in Argentina, he lives in LA, and he never answered just for months. I mean, we shot the film, we were going to work with another composer. I said, okay, he's not interested, he's in Hollywood, he's not going to go. And suddenly I was not getting the composer I wanted because of the time frame of the movies. They were overlapping, and I was feeling kind of desperate because I truly wanted to use both original music and pre-existing music. And suddenly Gustavo called that he just found the screenplay in his kitchen and started to read it, and he couldn't stop. And did you shoot this film? I need to make this film. He knew all the dialogue, everything. So by that time I was in Madrid with Matias Mosteirin. We were showing the first cut of the film to Pedro, and he was in Gand in Belgium. So we took a plane, and I met Gustavo, and we drink, I don't know, he took me to a bar, and we were drinking and speaking about films and life during all the night, and he knew the film so well. 2 weeks after, he sent the music for the title sequence. And as a director, when you edit, you kind of fall in love with the music that you use as a reference. And it's always shocking to receive the piece of the composer. And there are some very famous cases like Kubrick in 2001 that he received the new score and he used the reference, which was Strauss. So I was afraid that after all this journey with Gustavo, I didn't like the music, but it was, as soon as I heard that, it was perfect, and I put it in a title sequence.
And you said you were showing it then to Pedro and Agustin in Madrid. Did you have a temp music score to it then?
Yeah.
Was it anything like what Gustavo came up with?
Yeah. I had I put on that sequence a romance, a very old song. Yeah. And but a very like a reggae version. It was kind of spaghetti western, very emotional and epic in a way. But what Gustavo wrote is so much better. I just forgot about the old one as soon as I heard Gustavo's.
And what about the song at the end that you play over the final song as the couple starts to get back together again? When did you find that?
Yeah, no. Well, that song actually I think that changed the end of that story because that and some other things that happened to me while thinking of the whole story. But I was listening to an iPod and I heard this version of "Fly Me to the Moon" by Bobby Womack, which I found beautiful and powerful and emotional, and I thought, okay, the movie has to end with this energy. So at the beginning, the couple didn't end like that. I had a different ending. But as soon as I was heading to the shooting and listening to this song, I created the new ending. And it's not a new ending. It's just that I kept on writing about what was happening. It ended before, not differently. I just added one more scene, and I thought there's more, there's this, and in part that's because of the song, the music. Music is very important for me. I truly, I also like jazz very much, and I write listening to music very loud, and it's always there. And for example, it changes what you're writing, the music, when you hear things, the images that you see are so different. The rhythm, everything.
Do you write your scripts to specific movement, music or albums? Some people, many writers I know, get a piece of music and that's what they basically play in their head the whole time they're writing.
Sometimes I do. Yeah. For example, I had this Giorgio Moroder theme that belongs to Flashdance, the film. So in the road rage episode, when the guy is driving the car, he's listening to Flashdance score, and I thought that was the one.
Sing it.
Yeah, it's. No, magnificent song, and so I needed that one, and thank God I have great producers. I never thought they were going to get that song, but yeah, now it's in the film. Although I have to say that there's one song that was very important for me, and I couldn't use the song in a film because we didn't get the rights. It is a Jewish song, a traditional song, and it was written by a rabbi who didn't let us use the song. And
he just blanket wouldn't let it be used?
No, because it was for God, and this was a Jewish wedding that involved a woman and a guy, and okay, if you didn't see the film, I'm not going to spoil it with you, but some very terrible things happened there. But I thought that it was a religious problem because, God inspired that music to me. And I truly think that. What's imagination? I don't know where that comes from. But it was not allowed.
I hope you never had to show him the footage because that would have ended it.
No. Well, there was an instant I was going to fly to New York just to show the movie to this rabbi, and I thought, no, this is not going to work. That's not the way to do it. I have to say that I am a Jew. It's not that. Yeah.
I'd like to talk to you, all four of you, about your approach to acting and using professional actors and non-actors. In your case, it looks like, Pawel, that you had a very well-known actress, clearly, and a professional actress, and then I think a newcomer, right? Was it a long casting process on both sides, or did you know immediately when you found your two leads that those were the ones?
With the professional actress who plays Wanda, I needed an actress who was in her early 40s, so you kind of know who they are. And there were 4 candidates, and Agata Kulesza was the best for this character. She was the closest, and I saw her in a play where she was tremendous, and she's like a virtuoso. And for that character, I needed a real virtuoso, an actress who can do many things. For because the character of Amanda is like many people, you know, she has several faces. Whereas the lead character, well, both are leads. So, but the title character Ida, she is all of a piece. She's, you know, she doesn't have many faces. She changes incrementally, ever so little, and she's very much, you know, on paper she was a little bit theoretical and thin, you know, because she's a very unusual, statistically impossible character, really. But I still believe in her. It's just that that, you know, on paper was okay, but not enough, and the actresses I looked at, he just didn't have what I imagined, you know, what she needed to have. So we looked for months and months among young actresses, drama students all over Poland, and it just didn't feel true. And then, you know, to cut a long story short, we found Agata Trzebuchowska, who plays the lead in a cafe, minding her own business. Reading a book. She never wanted to act, never wanted to be an actress. So in other words, she was perfect. And she had not a histrionic bone in her body, you know, like really grounded, clever woman, young woman, kept the world at a distance, thought a lot, didn't speak before she thought, you know, was very good at looking, like watching and thinking and listening, which is a rare quality, and she, above all, she felt like somebody who's not of today, you know, as if she hadn't been watching TV in her life, you know, as if she grew up on a convent, although she's a really hip young woman who studies philosophy at Warsaw University. Anyway, so there were different characters, but they both were perfect, but different actresses perfect for the part they were playing, and they knew that I really wanted them and nobody else, you know, so they very early on knew that they're part of the fabric of the film, which gives actors confidence. You know, they knew that I chose them because they are the way they are, and both were very, you know, very intelligent, very strong, asked the right questions, and the really, you know, experienced actress Kulesza gave space to the other one, because Agata Kulesza is a real, you know, bravura actress. She could overrun a poor young debutante, but she was very good at just leaving that space. And it was just a great experience with two clever. The only problem is that they were called both Agatas, you know, so there was a little confusion on the set, and I couldn't say the old Agata and the young. No, but it was really, you know, but the whole atmosphere on the set helped the performance, you know, because we didn't do coverage, we tried to do everything in from one angle in one shot, where both of them were kind of in the situation. It didn't feel like an industrial process. We really could create an atmosphere with a bit of like magic and electricity between them, and there wasn't pressure. You know, there wasn't like pressure. We're knocking off pages of script. In fact, we forgot that we're shooting a script. You know, it was like these are kind of documentary moments, as it were, and we're sculpting within them, and that affected their acting in a good way, I think.
You can certainly see it in the clip. It's remarkable. That was the first day of shooting. When it's revealed to Ida that she's Jewish, she gives absolutely nothing, and yet you see all of that going into her, and she's processing all, but she physically does nothing.
That's the beauty of close-ups if you don't use them often. You know, possibly she didn't know what the hell she was acting. She was just like no, she did. But you know, but it also helped, you know, to kind of use the grammar of cinema to convey emotion and image. You know, not just, you know, I wanted the performance to be together with the image. You know, like not that the camera is covering performance. The camera is part of the performance. You know, and that's how it works.
Andrey, I'm assuming, but I don't know this, that your cast is all made up of professional actors, except is the boy also the son? Is he also an actor, or is somebody you discovered?
Нет, мы искали этого парня, как и второго, мелкого, которому 6 лет, по-моему, было на тот день, когда мы в те дни, когда мы снимали. Это был кастинг большой, подробный, с пробой сцен и так далее. Переведите это.
Yes, it is true that we use professional actors, with the exception of the 2 kids that are in the movie. We went through a very meticulous and very long, very elaborate casting process for these 2 kids.
Вот тот мелкий, которого зовут Витя, мальчик, Он на пробах был очень хорош, покладист. На съемках он мне приготовил сюрприз. После каждого дубля, даже репетиционного, он вдруг объявлял, что я все сделал.
We had some sort of a fun moment with the little kid, Victor. He was only 6. We casted him. However, during the shooting, he would claim after each take that he was done. He was perfect.
Я говорю, нам нужно еще. Нужно сделать это лучше.
However, we tried to convince him every single time that we need to do it better.
Он говорит, why? Я все сделал.
He asked why. I was perfect.
Я впервые столкнулся с таким непониманием актерским.
This was my first ever case of such misunderstanding, if you will, with the cast.
Все остальные, конечно, это профессиональные актеры. Более того, 4 главные персонажа фильма, взрослые актеры, они все вполне себе звезды в российском кино.
All the other actors are professionals, specifically the 4 main characters, the adult ones. They are well-known, renowned Russian actors.
Здесь же, кстати, на такой же подобной панели перед Golden Globe я открывал один профессиональный секрет. Но, думаю, аудитория здесь другая, поэтому я повторю это.
There was an interesting story that Andrey revealed before the Golden Globes Award that he would like to share with you now.
Практически все сцены, где наши актеры выпивают, и довольно много, мы коллегиально вместе решили так, что актеры будут действительно крепко выпивать.
During the filming process, we made a decision without telling the actors in the first place that all the scenes that include drinking, as you are aware, are abundant in the movie, would include real alcohol.
И мне кажется, результат на экране.
However, and I think the result you can clearly see on screen.
Last night we had a cocktail party in which the directors received their certificates of nomination, and the writer Paul presented Andrey with his, and he applauded the acting, thought it was the best acting he'd seen in a movie in years. He said specifically the drunk acting. Now I know it wasn't acting.
Да, но я хочу сказать, что вот это удивительный секрет. Единственный актер, который отказался участвовать в этом сговоре, это был как раз мэр, тот самый персонаж, бездна в глазах которого видна наиболее ярко, скажем так.
Surprisingly enough, and that's another secret I wanted to reveal, the only actor who absolutely refused to participate in any kind of libations was Rahman Madanov, who played a corrupted mayor who, as you have seen, had this abyss in his eyes, absolutely blinded by the alcohol. Fortunately, coincidentally, he was the only one who actually did not drink. That's all acting.
I would have bet anything that if anybody had been drinking on that set, it would have been he, so it's great.
Могу поспорить, что кто бы на самом деле не принимал в участии в возлияниях, тем не менее, они показали потрясающую актерскую игру, независимо от этого.
Yes.
Zaza, how did you approach your casting? And your lead actor is arguably, I understand, the most or one of the most important actors in Estonia. Did you always know you wanted to cast him, and where did the other actors come from?
მინდა აღნიშნო ერთი რამე, ძალიან სახიფათოა ანდრეიას ლაპარაკოს სახიფათოა, ბევრმა არ გაიგონეს, იმიტომ რომ ხო წარმოგიდგენია ფანტაზიურ განმავითაროთ, როგორი ეპიზოდებია ხოლმე ფილმებში გადასაღები და რა შეიძლება მოუნდეთ რომ რეალურად მოითხოვონ, ხო?
Before actually I answer your question, I would like to make a remark to what Andrey said. If I were you, I would be a little careful about revealing these secrets because, there are such scenes on the sets of different movies, and if there are actors or actresses in this audience, they might want to do the real thing.
რაც შეეხება შეკითხვას, ხომ მე ქართული რეჟისორი ვარ, ანუ და მე ვიცნობდი ჩვენს მე შემიძლია თქვა ნამდვილ ვარსკვლავებს, ხო ძალიან პატარა ქვეყნის ნამდვილ ვარსკვლავებს.
First and most of all, I must say that I'm a Georgian director, and of course I know a lot of very famous and not so very famous actors and actresses of very small countries.
ეს ადამიანები ეს ორი ქართველი, იქ არის ორი ქართველი, ესე იგი ქართველი რომელიც თამაშობს ქართველს და ქართველი რომელიც თამაშობს ჩეჩენს.
So there are two famous actors, Georgian actors. One of them plays a Georgian character, the other one plays Chechen character.
მე თქვათ ვიც ჩეჩენს თამაშობს გიორგი ნაკაშიძეს ნამუშევარი არ ვიყავი, მაგრამ ვიცნობდი მას ახლოს და ძალიან ნიჭიერი და ძალიან კარგი მსახიობია, ვიცოდი და თავიდანვე ვიცოდი, ანუ კასტინგი არ ჩამიტარებია ეთამაშა ახმედი.
I personally haven't met the one that played Chechen character on set before, but I knew him very well, and I had good references on him, so I never casted for that particular character. I just approached him and asked him to play.
მიშა მესხთან ნამუშევარი ვიყავი, რომელიც ქართულს თამაშობს მანამდე.
I had pleasure to work with Misha Mesri, another Georgian actor who actually plays the Georgian character, so I knew him quite well.
პირდები ხოლმე 8 წელი აღარ გათამაშე ფილმში მე, მაგრამ ვერ ვასრულებ ჩემს სიტყვას, ცოტა ცელქია, მაგრამ იმდენად ნიჭიერია რომ არ შემიძლია რომ ვთამაშო და ყოველთვის ვათამაშე 10 წელი კიდე.
He's a little on the naughty side, and I always tell him, I'm not gonna cast you anymore, and you are not gonna be in my next movie. But he's so talented that I break my promise to him all the time.
რაც შეეხება ესტონელ მსახიობს, ის არის ძალიან ცნობილი აგრეთვე ესტონეთში მსახიობის, იყო ადრე საბჭოთა კავშირში ძალიან ცნობილი მსახიობი და მე ბავშვი ვიყავი მაშინ, როცა ნახე უფრო ახალგაზრდა იყო მაშინ ლემბი ტულსაკი და მახსოვდა ის ოღონდ როგორც ახალგაზრდა.
As for the lead character, Mr. Lembik Tulsak, he is famous and well known not only in Estonia but in ex-Soviet Union. I actually remember him from my childhood.
და მე ნახე ფოტოები თუ როგორ გამოიყურება ახლა, იმ წუთში მივხვდი რომ ეს იყო ჩემი გმირი და ფაქტობრივად კასტინგი მასზეც აჩატარებულა ამ როლზეც, იმიტომ რომ ეგრევე დამტკიცდა ლემბიტი.
But of course, his image was much younger from my childhood. But when I saw his current photos, I decided that he would be the one for the lead role.
და მეორე და მესამე მსახიობზე ესტონელებზე მოხდა კასტინგი ტალინში და დავამტკიცე და ეს გადავიღეთ.
But the other two Estonian characters, actually, I had to cast several people in order to choose them.
And did you have a formal rehearsal period before you started shooting?
ოფიციალური რეპეტიცია ჰქონდა სანამ შეარჩიე.
არა, რეპეტიციები არ ქონია. უბრალოდ იყო კასტინგი იყო და რაღაც პატარა ეპიზოდი მივეცით იმ ორ მსახიობს, რომ იქ რაღაცა ეთამაშოთ, ენახებინათ თვითონ რა შეუძლიათ რა.
There were no formal rehearsals per se, but I actually gave them little scenes to act out, and that's how we chose them.
Damián, I would guess that all of the actors in your film are professional actors. And in fact, I always joke, Ricardo Darín, who stars in the first, second, third, fourth of the fourth tale, is probably the most well-known actor in Argentina. And I used to joke that I thought it was a government law in Argentina that he had to be in every movie, because he's in every movie we've seen here from Argentina. He's a spectacular actor, and it was fun to see him show up. I didn't even know he was in the movie. But how did you go about casting him, and did you always know that's the part you wanted him to do, because he could have played a number of them?
Yeah, no. Ricardo is magnificent, and so are the rest of the actors in the film. I really have a dream team of actors. It's like having, I don't know, Marlon. It's like The Godfather. They're all there, all the best ones, and they are all the best ones in Argentina, I have to say. Usually you don't see them together in the same film because each one has its own or his own TV show or stage play, but the nature of this film allowed us to call them all, and they were the main character of each one of the stories, and at the same time I needed them for 10 days, not for 3 months, so they could come. And as soon as they read the script, they said yes. To Ricardo and Oscar Martinez, I offered them 2 different roles because I imagined them alternatively in 2 different moments of the film. So to Ricardo, I gave him the engineer, the explosive engineer, and I also offered him the rich father in the house. Right. And he chose the engineer. And then to the rich father, I offered him that role and the Audi driver of the road rage episode. Because I felt that episode with an older actor could be very good also, like a Haneke film, something very, very dark, and he finally, he felt that he truly adored the role of the rich father. So not to the rest of the actors, but they are all very well-known actors and they are great. I truly think that, like them or not, the actors are the main tool. For a director, I truly enjoy to see something that evolves, to share a process with people that I admire. I decided before I shot this film that I wanted to work with actors that I admire, and musicians and cinematographers as well. And when that happened, I think that the material gets deeper, and I can see that from the first take till the 31st, because I shoot a lot, and the way it evolves, and the editing of the film was very hard because I had a lot of great stuff that I needed to leave out. So I had 6 or 7 different films with different takes. I was watching them because of them.
And I'm assuming you didn't have a rehearsal process.
No. We read the screenplay and I rehearsed during the shooting. No, we didn't. I did with the bride and the groom. Yeah, because that was particularly difficult to do. The shooting was very complex because we lived with 200 extras for 10 days. I shot that one in order. But it was great because the extras didn't know the screenplay. So they were the audience. And during rehearsals, they went, "Oh, wow." So I knew it was working.
Where did you find the DJ? I thought it was great. Every time you cut to
He's great. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, in a casting. Yeah, he's very good. I also like that shot. He's in 2 shots, but he's funny.
It's a great one. Yeah. I'd like to talk, because I think it's relevant to all 4, actually 5 of these films, the sort of the political repercussions of your films, because they've all been, if not shrouded with certain conflict or controversy, they seem to have sparked very distinct reactions and varied reactions. I gather in Ida, there has been some pushback from some Poles, and I read somewhere that you were actually, this is the craziest thing I've heard, but somebody was ordering some committee was asking you to put a disclaimer on the front of the film because they felt the film was, and I'm probably glossing over it a little bit, but anti-Semitic and did not fully explain the Polish role during and after the war.
Wow. That was anti-Polish. They claimed that it was unpatriotic.
Yes.
And that it wasn't clear that the Second World War was started by the Germans from the film. And I should make that clear. So yeah. No, there was, when the film came out in Poland, there was no problem because it was a kind of art house film, mainly watched by this kind of audience that likes these kind of films, and they tend to...
Sounds like the kind of audience who would know who started the war.
That for starters, and then just could kind of just watch the film, I must admit that there were not too many of those in Poland, but, 120,000 respectable. It's only when this film started having success, worldwide. You know, it won awards, the European Film Awards, and the nominations, and suddenly became like a public political phenomenon. So people started looking at it. You know, what does it say about our country? You know, not what does the film say, but they're trying to double guess what it. How do we come across? So it was an attack in a lot of articles. I stopped reading, but there was quite a lot of poison in Polish papers from the right wing that it's unpatriotic. And they was talking about the Poles and the Jews, as if Ida and Wanda were not Polish, as if there was some kind of, because for me all the characters in my film are Polish, different versions of Polish, whereas it didn't help that the film was kind of here and there marketed or like labeled as a Holocaust movie, which again, I didn't want it to be a Holocaust movie, whatever that means. I wanted the film to be very specific about complex characters who are full of their ambiguities and not about an issue. It was more. There was a lot of things in it. I mean, there was also Stalinism, there was jazz, there was faith, there was identity. All sorts of things which I wouldn't want to disentangle. That's why I put them in. And hid them there. So anyway, it started becoming like a political football. Attacked by the right. Then some brilliant intellectuals in Poland decided that the film is anti-Semitic as well. So wow, that's good. And then suddenly, so I was getting, from a kind of innocent, opaque, totally unwatchable art house movie, it's become this kind of major political statement, about history, which it never was meant to be. So. But at least, I got a lot of controversy in Poland. In Poland, people like discussing a lot, They don't seem to like to go to the movies as much as discussing. But at least they don't shoot people, unlike, and I move on to my colleague here. Unlike in Russia.
Yeah. So, Andrey, I promised you upstairs before we started that I would not ask you about Putin. So I won't. His name won't come up again. But I gather there has been a lot of pushback in Russia, and certainly from the Minister of Culture, who is the one who partially funded the movie to begin with, and they find the movie very un-Russian, and the characters very un-Russian. And it's interesting. One of the complaints was that we don't all drink vodka that much in Russia. Now I find out they do.
Очень интересно было бы услышать ваше мнение по поводу вот этой ситуации, когда руководство не согласно с вами.
Ну да, в общем, Павел сказал о том, что мы близки, мы действительно рядом, соседи. И фильм действительно обвиняли и обвиняют в непатриотичности. Вот. Первая реакция власти, собственно говоря, это была реакция министра Мединского. Он только что посмотрел фильм, и мы сели с ним за столом, и первое, что он сказал, да, кстати, говорит, в России так не пьют. Вот с этого началась наша дискуссия.
Yes, Pawel was truthful about ours being neighbors and situations being similar. And you are correct about the backlash. Specifically, when we had the screening with Minister of Culture and Mr. Medinsky, his first comment was, no, this is not the correct picture. People do not drink that heavy in Russia.
И с тех пор, это было еще в мае, в общем, мы, что называется, мяч перекидываем друг другу. Мы такие оппоненты, уже такие бойцовские качества проявили с обеих сторон.
And ever since then, that was back in May, we've been footballing those negativity back and forth, trying to get our point through and still having very negative reaction from anything government.
Есть, конечно, еще какие-то маргинальные высказывания некоторых политиков. Один из них предлагал вернуть деньги, потраченные на картину, например.
There has been something marginal suggestions from certain left-wing, right-wing politicians suggesting the money that have been funded should be refunded back to the government.
А другой предложил мне выйти на Красную площадь. Вы знаете, что такое Красная площадь для России. Вот, встать на колени и попросить прощения у всего русского народа.
And another suggestion was I go to the Red Square, kneel down, and beg forgiveness from the whole of Russia.
I suspect you'll give the money back before you do that.
Maybe. Ну, аудитория, разумеется, в общем, вторит этим высказываниям на те или иные лады. Конечно, есть другая часть России, другая часть аудитории, которая принимает эту картину и говорит о том, что это прямой, пристальный, честный, бескомпромиссный взгляд на то, что с нами происходит.
And the majority of the audience basically has the same reaction as the government. However, a certain part of the audience does feel that the movie is the actual current portrayal of modern day in Russia. So the opinions actually polarized.
It is clearly one of the best reviewed movies in recent history. It's the American press has gone crazy for it, as has, from what I can tell, all over the world. Is that true for Russia also, or has this controversy invaded the critical reaction also?
Преимущественно в России, пресса, конечно, очень позитивная.
Primarily, we have been receiving positive press in Russia.
Certainly should. Zaza, is there a controversy at all about your film? And I'll tell you, the only one I know internally here is that we had both Estonia and Georgia trying to submit it, and we, quite frankly, it's the worst part of being involved in this committee, that sometimes we have to do sort of bureaucratic, nonsensical, not nonsensical, we have to make decisions that are other than sort of aesthetic ones. But it does sound like, from what I gather, and you've said this often, that this film is both an Estonian and a Georgian film. And I believe your producer said, yes, it is. It is first an Estonian film and then a Georgian film. Has that been at all a conflict, or is that with hand in hand?
No, I must say there is no controversy about this, and we all agree that this film should be presented by Estonia.
თუმცა მე მინდა აღნიშნო, რომ ქართული მაყურებელი როცა უყურებს ამას აღიქვამს როგორც ქართულ ფილმად, ესტონური მაყურებელი უყურებს როგორც ესტონურ ფილმად, ამიტომ არის ნამდვილი პროდუქცია და წოს ეს.
But when Georgians watch this movie, they accept it as a Georgian reality. When Estonians watch the movie, they believe that it's their reality. So that's why I believe that this is a real co-production.
ესტონეთმა იმიტომაც წარადგინა, რომ პირველი გარდა იმისა, რომ დაფინანსება მეტი იყო ესტონეთიდან, მეორე ეს იყო კრეატიული კონტროლი მაინც იყო ესტონეთიდან, იმიტომ რომ მე ამყავს შრალი და ესეთი ჩვეულებრივი პროდიუსერი მყავს ჩემი უახლოეს მეგობარი ახლა და ძალიან კრეატიული პროდიუსერია და კრეატიულ კონტროლს ახორციელებდა ესტონეთიდან, ეს ორი მიზეზი.
Well, there are two reasons for why this movie was supposed to be presented by Estonia. One, of course, funding. That's the major part. And the second one is that I had a very experienced producer, and he was implementing the creative control from Estonia.
მესამე მიზეზი რა სხვა საუკეთესო უცხოენოვანი ფილმი, ხო? კატეგორია. და მაინც ისე მოხდა, რომ ესე იგი იქ არ არის არც ერთი სიტყვა ქართული და არის რუსული და ესტონური ენაზე, იმიტომ რომ საკონტაქტო ყოფილი საბჭოთა კავშირის რესპუბლიკებიდან, ამ ეროვნებიდან ერთმანეთზე საკონტაქტო ენა იყო რუსული და ესტონელები ერთმანეთს ესტონურად ელაპარაკებოდნენ. ანუ იქაც ენაც ესტონურია, ორიგინალური ენა და რუსული.
And as for the language of the movie, as you already know, basically the main language is Russian. And because Russian language was the only language that all ex-Soviet Union countries could communicate with each other on. And then there is Estonian language. So Estonian actors, characters actually communicate with each other in Estonian, but the whole movie is in Russian.
Damián, I can't imagine that the president of Argentina, that she likes a lot of what your movie said. Now, Damián's movie is the most successful Argentine movie ever, and is a huge, huge hit all over the world, but certainly in his country. But it suggests that bureaucracy is completely mind-numbing. It doesn't suggest, it certainly shows that the legal system is corrupt and can be bought. Surely you must have some reaction to this, and unfortunately bringing in just current politics, this Alberto Nisman assassination, probably not a good time to be suggesting that the legal system can be bought and is corrupt in the country.
Well, you cannot deny it. I mean, of course, we have corruption, but I have to say that the president liked the film. I don't know why, but she liked it. She talked about it in an interview or something. And we did have, after I was invited to a TV show and I talked about the movie and the themes of the movie and the system, etc. And I said some things. I received a sue from a politician for invitation to collective violence. Yeah, but it didn't go anywhere. But that happened. And then what did happen is that the film became it's huge in Argentina, and became like a kind of social phenomenon. It was all up, and the title of the film was used for everything in the newspapers, like Another Wild Tale, a guy killed with an axe his neighbor. Another wild tale. So it was all over the place, yeah, and tweeted, etc. And some of the
no such
characters.
thing as bad publicity, right?
No.
I often, I question the title of this committee and this award, because in theory, everything should be competing against one another. This is the foreign language. These are foreign language directors, and which of course makes them. They're saying, I'm working in my own language. In fact, Guillermo del Toro last night said, I grew up loving foreign language films in Mexico. I loved Jaws. I loved Taxi Driver. I loved. And it is from that perspective. Nevertheless, we have four, actually, and fifth in absentia, extraordinary films here. Wild Tales opened on Friday. Sony Classics has it to stellar reviews, and I gather great box office. We have Tangerines, which just got a U.S. distributor. Samuel Goldwyn Company opens in 2 or 3 months, I believe.
2 months or 3 months.
Leviathan is currently playing here, and Ida opened in the summer, I think, and had a very, very, very healthy run, and Timbuktu is currently playing around town and also got incredible reviews. You have been privileged to listen to, I think, 4 of the most accomplished and successful and really, really beautiful directors. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.